"You're not supposed to be here," she whispered, clutching the phone. Seconds before the door lock twisted with a sound she'd never forget. Maggie Caldwell wasn't used to silence, the kind that stretches across an afternoon like a held breath. She used to fill her days with the buzz of work, phone calls, errands. But after the accident, after the surgeries and the metal plate in her spine, silence became her new normal. Her small apartment in a quiet suburb of Boston was her safe place. The curtains stayed closed. The front door was always locked. And when you're recovering from trauma, the last thing you expect is for trauma to come knocking again. It started with the doorbell, a short buzz, then silence. She figured it was a delivery guy, maybe the wrong unit. She didn't move, didn't need to. 10 minutes later it rang again. This time more urgent, like whoever was out there knew she was inside. Maggie shuffled to the window. Pain still flared through her hip when she moved too fast. She peeked through the blinds. An old SUV, a man in a gray blazer, clipboard in hand, talking to someone. She didn't recognize either of them. Then, the lock. It clicked. It turned. Maggie froze. This wasn't someone knocking. This was someone entering. She grabbed her phone, hands trembling. 911. "What is your emergency?" she whispered into the receiver, barely able to breathe. "Someone's opening my door. I didn't let them in. I live alone. I'm disabled. Please." The 911 operator stayed calm. "Professional. Stay on the line, ma'am. Help is on the way." Maggie backed into her hallway, eyes fixed on the door. She had no weapon, no strength to fight. The only thing sharper than her fear was her disbelief. Who had a key? Who could even... The door cracked open. A man stepped in, briefcase slung over his shoulder like it was just another day at the office. She gasped. "You're not supposed to be here," she croaked. He looked up, casually surprised. "Oh, Miss Caldwell, right? I'm showing the unit. You should have received the notice." "No one told me anything. You can't be here." Her voice broke mid-sentence. He looked around like he owned the place. "Your landlord approved it. Standard practice. You weren't answering, so..." The operator whispered in her ear. "Police are outside now. You're safe to open the door." Maggie ran. No, hobbled to the stairwell. By the time she reached the door, the man was already trying to explain himself to the cops. She watched as they questioned him. Not cuffed. Just talked. No arrests. No big reaction. Just a misunderstanding, they said. But Maggie knew what she felt. And worse, she knew he'd be back. End of chapter 1. Word count 48:6. He waved at her window every morning, like they were old friends, like he hadn't broken into her life and rewired her fear into routine. Maggie stopped sleeping by the second week. She would lie on the couch fully clothed, her cane and phone beside her, eyes locked on the hallway that led to the door. Just in case he returned. The police had called it a misunderstanding, something about real estate showing laws and permissions. Her landlord was within his rights, they said, but no one seemed to care that Maggie never got notice, that she was disabled, alone, and terrified, that a man entered her apartment without consent. He came back 3 days later. This time he didn't try the lock. He stood outside, clipboard in hand, tapped his pen on the railing, waited. She watched him from behind the curtain, holding her breath like it would keep her invisible. He didn't knock, didn't ring the bell. He just waited, then looked up, smiled. Wait. Maggie stepped back like she'd touched fire. Was this legal? Was this harassment? Was he playing by the rules just enough to break her without consequence? She started documenting everything. Dates, times, video clips from her phone. She emailed her landlord demanding answers. No reply. She contacted a tenants' rights group. They offered vague legalese and a promise to look into it. Meanwhile, he escalated. Sometimes he'd walk by slowly, peering in as if checking the window. Other times he'd arrive with strangers and loudly announce details to potential buyers. Details about her Unit B, currently occupied but the tenant is disabled, so move-in date might be flexible. He said it as if she were an item to be cleared out, like she was clutter. The worst was the night she found a flyer shoved under her door. Open house Sunday noon. Enter freely with agent. She ripped it in half. Maggie hadn't been outside in weeks. Her body ached but not as much as her spirit. She no longer trusted her locks. She didn't sleep. Her therapist said she was showing signs of hypervigilance, an extreme stress response. But what else could she do? Every legal route was slow. And he kept smiling, kept waving, kept pushing. He never touched her, never yelled. But his presence screamed louder than any attack. It wasn't just trespassing anymore. It was control. It was a game. And Maggie was the only one playing defense. So she did the only thing she could. She printed every photo, timestamp, email and flyer, compiled them all into a thick folder, and made an appointment with a lawyer. Because if no one would fight for her, she'd go to court and force them to listen. I was just doing my job, he said, like that justified months of fear, gaslighting and treating a woman's apartment like his personal open house. The courthouse smelled like bleach and bureaucracy. Maggie sat at the plaintiff's table, her palms sweating through her sleeves. Across the room he walked in. Same blazer, same smirk, like he was about to sell the place next door. He didn't look nervous, didn't look guilty. If anything, he looked in. The judge glanced through the case notes. Miss Caldwell, you allege unlawful entry, harassment, and emotional distress over a period of 2 months. Is that correct? She nodded once. Clear. Focused. Folder in hand. Her lawyer stood, presented the documentation, dates, photos, videos, that open house flyer. But more powerful than the evidence was Maggie's voice. I didn't feel safe in my own home, she said, carefully choosing her words. I was recovering from a spinal injury. I had no weapon, no defense. I was told again and again that the law protected him, but never me. The courtroom was still, and the worst part, she added, was when I realized he knew I couldn't stop him. That's when he started waving. Across the aisle, the broker Daniel Crane chuckled. Not loud, but just enough. The judge looked up. Do you find something amusing, Mr. Crane? Your Honor, he said, voice syrupy smooth. I was acting on behalf of the building's owner. I followed state real estate law to the letter. Tenants often misinterpret these things emotionally. Emotionally, the judge interrupted. Yes, she refused access. That's not uncommon with people in her situation. Her situation, as if disability was a mood swing. Maggie's attorney leaned. Let's be clear. She was given no notice. You had no appointment. And yet you entered her home without her consent. Daniel shrugged. The landlord had given blanket permission for showings. That's standard in multi-unit sales, but not without 24-hour written notice. Silent. The judge flipped through the photos again. The flyer, the video of him rattling her doorknob, smiling at the camera. I'll be ruling on the matter of unlawful entry and tenant harassment, the judge said. While your actions may have fit a loose interpretation of the law, they demonstrate a gross disregard for personal boundaries and tenant rights. Daniel's smirk disappeared. Maggie didn't win millions. There were no dramatic gasps from the gallery, but she won enough. The court ordered a cease and desist, a no-contact clause, and sanctions against both the broker and landlord for unethical conduct. It wasn't just a ruling, it was a message that she wasn't crazy, that fear counts, that her apartment, her space was hers again. Later that night, Maggie returned home, closed the door, and this time she finally felt like she could sleep.